So we're going to start with a poem by a woman named Elise M. Powers called Wild Indulgence. There's a woman in my neighborhood with not one, but 6 full-grown St. Bernard dogs. She tethers them to her waist and trots the happy troop up and down the street. I see her and think, what a wild indulgence to gather so much joy it orbits you in a glorious parade of gluttony, as if she leaves the house and dares the world to question how much happiness one person deserves. It's ridiculous, of course, but so is happiness, and so is the heart's hunger for more and more and more. And then a little excerpt coming from a book called The Man Jesus Loved. Jesus seems utterly unconcerned for his own reputation. When he is accused of being religiously and ethnically illegitimate because he is a Galilean or a Samaritan, he doesn't even bother to reply, nor does he reply when he is repeatedly called a sinner. None of this seems to matter to him. All that matters is that he acts as God acts, that he befriends those people rejected by conventional piety and who are in distress. This activity of compassion, rather than living up to conventional expectations, is the mark of a relationship with God. So, I was specifically asked by Rudra to come here and give a sermon on Transgender Day of Visibility, which is an event that happened this past week. And in my tradition as a Christian pastor, it's also Easter. And I can't help but feel that the two are very closely related. You see, Jesus was a man of color in his mid-30s, just a year older than I am, who was persecuted for being both societally unacceptable and for loving those around him who were also societally unacceptable. He spent his time with the socially ostracized, including Samaritans, who were the unwanted immigrants of his time, the poor and unhoused, the sick and disabled, the sex workers and the shepherds and the fishermen, the violent and nonviolent revolutionaries, and, according to many biblical scholars, the queer. It was for this crime, above all, that he was put to death. His crime on paper was blaspheming, but the story of the Gospels shows that it was Jesus' refusal to bend to the status quo that made the Pharisees want to kill him. Jesus was a community activist on the fringes of society that was executed by both the church and the state for the crime of spreading love and acceptance. Now, in the Christian tradition, he returns from death transformed. But even if you don't believe in the resurrection, Jesus' life, the legacy of love that outlived him, is still worth celebrating, because his life emboldened a people to make a new religion where ministers weren't just wealthy men from Jerusalem, but refugees and migrants, the poor and exiled, the sick and disabled, uneducated fishermen, women, runaway slaves, and yes, even queer people. The first 300 years of Christianity was an explosion of marginalized voices contending with both the forces of Roman rule and Jerusalem's religious elite. Rome tried to stomp out Christianity's queer, messy roots when it adopted Christianity as its national religion in the 300s, but many of these stories have managed to survive in both Christianity's canon and its apocrypha. At Christianity's roots, there's a story of surviving oppression through community, authenticity, and joy. Now, what does that have to do with being transgender? Everything, I think. Being transgender, when I explain it to young children, I usually use the metaphor of an itchy sweater that you can't take off. But unfortunately, it isn't as simple as an itchy sweater, though it is that too. We unfortunately live in a society that views transgender people as deviant. We're labeled as sick, deranged, even predatory, and dangerous. Trans people face extremely high rates of discrimination and violence, and that amount is on the rise right now with everything going on in this country. I personally have been a victim and a survivor of anti-trans violence, and it's an inescapable part of trans reality. We're also called ugly, deformed, unlovable, mutilated. this rhetoric is exceedingly damaging to young trans people especially, who are often led to suicide because they see no future. Almost 50% of trans people considered suicide in the past year based on a national poll. Then, of course, there's the death by 1,000 cuts of what I earlier called the itchy sweater. Looking in the mirror and not seeing yourself reflected back seeing yourself reflected back at you, or the daily experience of being perceived wrong by the people around us. This is the darkness that trans people face, but this is a happy sermon. On the other side of it, there is a resounding joy. You see, I think that trans people are treated the way they are because they challenge everything that nationalism, capitalism, and empire, and racism, and patriarchy, and all these big bads insist are immutable truths. That we are just expressionless cogs in a machine with set roles from the day we're born to work, to serve, and to buy things and then die. Men look and act a certain way, women look and act a certain way, families look and act a certain way, Americans and immigrants and white people and brown people and poor people and sick people are all filtered into these preset boxes of who and what we must be and become. We are boiled down to demographics and statistics. But the sacred says that we are so much more than that. We are full people. The universe is immense and diverse, and so are we. Families can look like anything, and people can look like anything. Transness is an ultimate expression of self-determination. It's being given a preset set of conditions from birth and saying, I know in my soul that this is wrong, so I am going to live as my true self. It's saying, you cannot decide who I am for me. It's refusal to bend to what others think we should be, and it's brazen, courageous authenticity of the highest order. It's why we read the poem Wild Indulgence at the beginning of today. Transness is leaving the house and daring the world to question how much happiness one person deserves. The world wants to tell us no. We don't deserve any happiness. But the divine tells us yes, we deserve to be happy. There is no limit to the amount of happiness that we deserve. We deserve to be here. We deserve to be our full, unabridged, unhidden, authentic selves. And we deserve to be seen and loved and celebrated. When I came out as transgender, when I took off my itchy sweater of incorrect girlhood, everything changed for me. Sure, yes, several things got significantly harder, but the divine began moving in my life in ways it never had before because I embraced who I was. And when you embrace who you are fully, you become more in tune with the divinity all around you. Many doors closed, but many other better doors opened. People left my life, but even more people came into it. I've been persecuted, but I've also been seen and deeply loved and celebrated. And there is nothing like being celebrated for who you truly are. It is an act of co-creation with the divine, a place of deep love and sacredness, and yes, a bottomless wellspring of joy in a desert of suffering. And while trans people are better in tune with this wellspring of authenticity due to our circumstances, this wellspring of joy is available to everyone. So I ask you, what is the part of you that you have hidden away or let fall off by the wayside because you felt that you couldn't indulge it? What is the part of you that what is the part of you that is a wild indulgence that you have not gotten to express anymore, even though it's authentic to who you truly are? Is it the part of you that wears colorful or glittery makeup? The part of you that has always wanted to dye your hair purple or paint your nails or get a tattoo but never has? Or is it the part of you that's a writer but stopped writing your book, or the painter that put down their brush? Is it the instrument or sports equipment that collects dust in the basement? Or is it something new, the desire to bake that you've been too scared or busy to try, or the friendship that you keep neglecting to schedule time for? What is your wild indulgence? What part of you is missing that deserves to be seen and celebrated? What would make you feel more right in your body? Because it's through these wild indulgences that we make it through these hard times. You need a buoy of joy and a lifeboat of community that truly sees you in order to keep your head up above rough waters. To learn from the trans community, love yourself despite the world telling you not to, and you will find joy even in the midst of persecution. Happy Easter and happy Trans Day of Visibility.